Welcome to the Seeds of Wisdom series. We hope you enjoy today's guest. Disclaimer: the people sharing their perspectives on this episode are not mental health professionals. We are speaking from our own personal experience on the subject matter. We sought mental health support from professionals. If you are suffering, please seek appropriate support. It's worth it because you're worth it. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Seeds of Wisdom with author Rachel Wolf. I'm Rachel Wolf, and I am so excited to start my new year of episodes, 2023, with the amazing Nita Sweeney, who is an author and noted accidental mental health advocate, which I love. And I'm going to let her begin by introducing herself, and then we're going to dive right into her seed, which is the power of a daily meditation practice. So with that, Nita, introduce yourself.
Well, thanks, Rachel. First, just thank you so much. But yeah, I'm Nita Sweeney. I am an award-winning author of 3 books. I'm a longtime meditator and a certified meditation teacher. I'm an ultra marathoner, wife, dog mom, and accidental mental health advocate by writing a book about my journey with running and how it helped my mental health. So I'm bipolar 2, and I'm pretty open about that. I'm, in recovery. I'm pretty open about that, and I just want to share all that with you today. So thank you again. This is just wonderful to be talking to you.
Well, and honestly, thank you so much for starting out in such an authentic place of letting us know, that you suffer from things that are a challenge when it comes to meditation. And I was telling you earlier, this book is so important because you talk about in it in a way that doesn't feel like it's over a non-meditator's head or over someone's head that has other things that they're dealing with. I have PTSD, and so meditation and OCD. So meditation has actually been a challenge for me in different ways. And your book focusing on moving meditation is so great because it took me forever to get to the fact that it's okay to do moving meditation. I'm not going to
Yep.
get beaten up by the police of meditation. With OCD, following the rules is so important.
Right.
So when people would say, no, you have to lay down, you have to do this, I take it very seriously. So let's talk about that, the power of having a meditation practice for you.
Well, the power of a regular, I did say daily, but let's just say
Yes, daily.
regular.
Sorry, daily.
Yeah, no, we did. No. You said that
Oh,
too. You got it right.
okay.
I'm trying to reassure you, but I was thinking about that just as you were talking.
Mhm.
If daily is too scary, let's just call it regular, because the point is more consistency. It's building momentum. Because if you meditate once a week, you're going to get a benefit, but you're not going to get the same progressive kind of building energy. There's a word that's escaping me, that where things build on each other, momentum,
Mhm.
that you will from a daily practice or even 3 times a week. So that's the power. The power is momentum. The power is the building effect of any practice, really, because in meditation, you're developing skills, building muscles, and like any muscle, if you don't use it, it atrophies, or you don't continue to get the power. But when you continue to do whatever exercise practice um, around that activity, that new skill set, it grows. So that's really, that's the bottom line, is that you will be stronger, faster, better at it, and your life will improve more quickly, or you'll be able to deal with whatever comes more easily, more quickly, if you do meditate on a consistent basis. And if that's daily, oh, big bonus, big bonus.
Well, I love in your book you talk about all the different kinds of meditations. You don't jump into all of them, but you just touch on a lot of different types of meditation to let people know that there are multiple kinds. It's not just laying down. It's not just sitting up in this position, you know.
The
People,
lotus, yes.
yeah. And it's not just these things.
Right.
It can look different. And I know for me, when I was trying to get into meditation, the feeling of doing it wrong became a obstacle. So for someone who's building a practice from the ground up and who has those challenges of that fear of doing new things because of doing them wrong, has that level of perfectionism or has a mental health uh condition that kind of creates blocks. Do you have any recommendations for that?
Yes, the one of the pieces of the meditation practice is what we called equanimity, which is a gentleness of mind. And so maybe even just noticing without having an intentional practice, just noticing the places during the day where you're essentially yelling at yourself or chiding yourself or kind of pointing fingers at yourself in a bad way, because that's can be part of the practice is just noticing that. But as for a structured practice, just start with tiny intervals of time and then notice when that rule thing or that angry voice or whatever that is comes up. So if you are a person who naturally likes to sit still, then sitting practice is good for you. But if you're a person who has trouble with fidgeting or has trouble with rules too, worried about that, then find a thing you're already doing. So for me, it was running, and it happens to be an exercise, but it could be brushing your teeth. It could be drinking a glass of water. It could be eating a meal. And then choose just a few seconds, I mean, literally like 10 seconds of that time to pay attention, to have your head, your thoughts, where your body is. So let's take brushing your teeth. Just, notice the way the brush feels on your teeth and gums. Notice if there's a taste. Does the toothpaste have a taste? If you're using electric toothbrush, notice the vibration. And just do that in a tiny interval of time so that you're allowing yourself to, it's almost like desensitizing yourself. I mean, really, that's actually what it is. I say almost, that's really what it is. Just hint, hint.
Yeah.
Because what we have to do is we have to kind of creep up on this so that those other voices that really believe they are helping us. For me, the bipolar, the mania, the depression, all of those voices that come along with that, they think they are helping me by suggesting I not do things that they think are scary. It's very funny because I'll be actually running, just I don't know how many miles I run long distances. So let's say I'm running 3 miles. Let's just keep it kind of reasonable-ish. So I'm in the second mile. I'm halfway through the second mile. All right. I'm running along, running strong, having fun, might be with some friends, might be meditating while I run because I do that too. And all of a sudden this voice will say, you know, if you run, you're going to die. And and for when I first started running, that I thought that voice was real. I thought, oh yeah, well, they always tell you it's bad for your knees, that you're gonna have a heart attack, that they go through this whole thing. And now I go, but I'm actually running right now. I mean, I'm at, like here running, and that's how crazy those voices are. I use the word crazy because it's just I use it very broad definition of that. But so let's go back to the brushing your teeth. You're brushing your teeth, and the voice might say, "Oh, you're not doing that right." Thank it and say, I got just 5 more seconds of this noticing, and then we'll talk to you. Hang tight. And so you just kind of do the thing. And the equanimity part of it is not pushing back, not saying, oh, there's that voice again. Oh my gosh, you need to shut up voice, or not saying, oh, what's wrong with me? I can't control this voice in my head, or not saying, oh, that voice is right. Just like giving it a little bit of space because it's going to talk to you anyway. You can't really stop it, but not giving into it in that tiny interval. So let me break that down. Tiny interval, something you're already doing and noticing that quality of mind. That's probably the smallest way I can put it into a package that would be helpful for especially somebody like you and I who have mental health conditions, and especially somebody who has a mental health condition who has not done a lot of meditation. Tiny interval, something you're already doing, and then that noticing of the mind state that will naturally arise. It's normal. Mind's job is to think thoughts.
Now, I know based on your book and through conversations you and I have had that the moving meditation has a lot of health benefits. Can you talk about some of those?
My favorite, growing new brain cells. But seriously, lowers blood pressure, improves mood, of course, weight. If you're exercising, chances are you're going to be more likely to maintain a healthy weight, not necessarily, but that's more likely. Um, excuse me, improves circulation, improves cognition, like the prefrontal cortex, rational thought, reduces anxiety. I mean, the list is crazy long. And I have listed a lot of that in the book. And there's one article I linked to again and again and again where another guy did all the research. So I didn't have to. So I just linked you to his stuff. There's 83 footnotes in the book. But there's the point was I'm not a scientist, and so wasn't going to do this research. But there's so much research out there. So cognitive, physical, emotional, mental, all of those benefits, pretty much anything you can guess. And the best thing is it doesn't take a lot of time to get those benefits. And that's where the regular practice comes in, because you can get the benefits doing it one off, but if you continue over time, those benefits really build.
I agree. So, with moving meditation, it does correlate to mindfulness and mindfulness practices. And in the book, you have this quote, which I absolutely love that you wrote. Um, with mindfulness, you see through the layers of what's actually happening. It's the practice in reality. I, oh my gosh, that quote just was like, yes, because what I know when I can shift and be mindful and be where my feet are, so many people think it's going to slow you down in a way of you're not going to do things, but it's the opposite. You see the opportunities that are literally in front of you, which so often when we're in autopilot brain or speed brain, we miss them because our head's in the future.
Or the
Or in the
past,
past.
or the
Yeah,
past. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
hmm
Ah,
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. My latest thing, which is slightly irreverent. I'm slightly irreverent, but I have a quote meme that I made a little while back that's cycling through my social media, but it is manifest reality. Because you hear people talk about, creating your world, creating your thoughts, which, I mean, that'd be great. But the issue is not being where you're at, because you can't manifest anything if you're off in some dream. You can dream the dream. That's fantastic. We all have dreams and goals and ambitions and loves and passions. But we can't actually do anything about them unless we're here. So yeah, so the reality is a big thing. And I think too, for people with again, I'm going to go back to the mental health issues. Um, our brains get inundated with the various thoughts, and our bodies get inundated, just flooded with unpleasant body sensations from anxiety or depression. Has a very physical component to it also.
mhm.
And so we add kind of a story on top of that. So there's the reality of, oh, I feel unpleasant sensations. And then, that we jump from that to either I'm going to die soon and it's going to be painful, or for me, it's always, and my husband is eventually after 30 years going to get tired of me and leave, or, it's like there's always this story. And so part of the practice is just noticing that we make those stories. We're creative people. We make those stories, and being able to see through them and go back to the pure sensation or the pure original thought without the story. So that's kind of what I was, with the layers, that's kind of what I was trying to get at, was the way we just layer all this unhelpful stuff on top of it.
Well, and I was so I did this 35-day boot camp that I conducted, that every day I had the participants name their feelings, just their feelings. I had a feelings wheel. Name your feelings with no story. And because it's hard, it's not easy to do, especially in the beginning, because you want to explain why I feel this way, why I feel, but what I realized when I started doing that, because it's like a meditation where I could sit in it, in the feeling of it, acknowledge the feeling, and then it moves.
Yes.
The
Impermanence.
story.
Impermanence.
Yes, the story is what keeps us hostage.
Right. It's like glue.
Yeah.
The story is like, or I don't know, epoxy. Remember when
Yeah.
we used to make those? I'm old. I'm not sure Rachel's this old. So, but we made those, we cut out like pictures we liked, and then we glue them to a piece of board, and then you epoxy them over, and they are solidified for time. I mean, time immortal. And that's what the story does to your emotions.
I have a vision board that it's all epoxy. I still use it.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Epoxy has its purpose.
But no, but that's
but not
the thing. But I understand what you mean. It's like that's what in that way of, and I shouldn't say bad, because it's not bad. It's uncomfortable. It's it's
uncomfortable.
and
right.
and that's actually one of the language words I'm trying to use. And you know how you were talking about the use of the word like crazy, and for me, meditation was a word I had a story attached to for a very long time, because I felt shame that I couldn't get there, even though I'd been trying since I was 10 years old when I was introduced to it. And so I had a lot of shame around it. So it took me going the breathing route and practicing breathing things, which are they're all coming from the same place. They're all,
it all has the same root.
Exactly. But until I could see that I had that barrier with meditation, I couldn't break it.
Right. That's so common. And what's interesting,
so many words are like that too.
Yes. And different people have different blocks. I just created a while back a meditation myths infographic, because that's one of them, is that there's a certain way we have to do this, and there's a certain definition. There's a lot of other ones, but it's really a block, because meditation is just so adaptable. Yes. And it works with what you have, and it's so helpful. It's been proven to be helpful. So that's part of my kind of new mission, is I'm busting meditation myths.
I love it. It needs to be busted for sure.
Yeah, we need more freedom. We need more gentleness.
Yes. And because I would do guided meditations, and being that I'm an auditory person, but I couldn't see the visions that they would provide. And they'd be like, well, just do this, just go there, and it just, I can go with an auditory thing, but I can't, once they start visualizing, I'm like, I can't see it.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, that's the other thing. This is something I'm learning. I intuitively knew it through years of meditation and teaching meditation, but I'm actually learning it in a writing class right now about the different strengths that we have as people, and we get shamed for them. And so being highly auditory is actually a strength,
Mhm.
And so, you're lower on visual. That's fine. There's other people that have that. But we get so what happens is the person on stage has had such a pleasant experience or a helpful experience with what they're teaching, and they don't know, or whatever, they just don't know, I guess, about the fact that we're all wired so differently. I mean, there's broad categories, but really, we're all wired so differently. And so that's another thing I've been working with is, I have my way of teaching, but there are 10,000 ways to meditate and to teach meditation and to receive the meditation information. So I'm trying to be careful not to say mine is the only way. I'm just trying to blow open the conception that you have to do it a certain way. So yeah. So thanks for seeing that, hearing that. It's you know how it is. You're an author, and sometimes you feel like you're just shouting into the void. And so when somebody gets it, you go,
Yes.
hallelujah.
Yes, yes. And and as a reader too, I do the same thing because like reading your book, it was very powerful to me to have somebody who has mental health challenges write a book about meditation
Thank you.
because
Thank
it's
you.
different.
Yes, yeah,
You
it is.
face different things and you can talk to that where the person who's reading it, if they have that, aren't going to feel so alone.
Right.
And
And
so
that's
I
everything.
appreciate
Oh my
that.
God, that feeling of they understand, they get me. That is just one of the best feelings in the world. So yeah.
So with that, we have to wrap up, but Nita has agreed to stay on for a few minutes longer. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll see an extended interview. So thank you, Nita, for being here with me today. And
Thank you.
and if you're here listening, it's because you're meant to be here. So trust that. Okay. So let's go deeper into trauma and meditation because I'd really like to take a few minutes because we're talking about mental health challenges. And one of the things why we have mental health challenges can often be from childhood trauma and trauma onward. And so I'd love to talk a little bit more with you about, because in the book you write that for trauma survivors, sometimes they can hit points in meditation that are very scary. So, can we talk a little bit more about that to help people who have been through this kind of stuff?
Absolutely. That's really important. And I appreciate that you're bringing up the question. First thing I want to say, I am not a mental health professional. Just want to say that disclaimer. I have been in therapy of many, many kinds for many years, and I've meditated for a long time. And so I see the place that those interact. Um, I think the most important thing for someone coming to meditation fresh who has mental health issues is if they're studying with a particular teacher, inquire about whether that teacher has trauma informed training. If they have had in their training a discussion about trauma, what to do with it, how to deal with it. Also, if someone is meditating, whether they're in a teacher setting, could be a retreat, or on their own, and they have any kind of experience that seems odd, off, scary to them, let the teacher know right away. And if the teacher doesn't seem um, interested, concerned, or maybe doesn't have tools, that's one thing I did put in the book in the resource section. There is, and I'm not going to be able to think of the name, but there is a trauma informed group that's their meditation teachers who deal with this very issue, and they work with people. And what's ironic is that often the practice that they will do for someone who has been triggered by a particular meditation experience is meditation, but it's like a much slower, because it's sort of like you're going to jump into a pool and go swimming. for some of us, the joy of jumping in and having that big splash and the shock of the water that's a great thing. And for others of us, we need to wade in very slowly. And so sometimes a teacher, especially if they're teaching a group, they're not necessarily going to be able to notice the individual things unless you bring them up. So that's probably the biggest thing, is just make sure the teacher has some kind of trauma training. And if you have an experience where you realize that that's what's going on, or even if you don't, just anything that comes up for you or your spidey sense goes off, talk to the teacher about it. And if you're not satisfied, they can always contact me too. But the information's in the back of the book. There's more than one, but there's one that I know of where they're actually training meditation teachers to deal with situations where people with trauma have had adverse reactions. They're actually very rare. What's much more common is what you've experienced and what I've experienced, where we just think we're not doing it right, so we don't do it anymore, or we try a different way, which is also fine. Um, but there's so many benefits to actual practice that I would encourage people to find a different teacher, find the help, and try again.
So one of the things I want to bring up too, and I don't know if this has happened for you, this happened for me, is that when I'm getting into a meditation practice or breathing practice, I'm opening myself up more, and kind of like where you said, where the mindfulness is that reality, but sometimes that means I'm seeing the deeper layers of myself. And that can look very scary, but what I have found for me is that if I go in and sit with it and sit with the feelings that are coming up, try not to get involved with the stories, but I sit with the feelings that come up, they are allowed to move through me in a way that's not aggressive. For
Yes.
me, that works, and it helps me not be in denial of what I'm seeing. Because that's easy to go, oh, I don't like that, I'm just going to go over here. But instead, going into it and just naming the feelings, naming what it is. And like you said, with the equanimity, is just being very gentle with myself. I have had things come up from like deep buried down that have cleared out. Things that caused me physical pain, things that have caused me behavior patterns in relationships change, flat out change, by being able to be present with them.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
was, to me, that gift of these meditation and breathing practices, and things that allow me to slow down enough to stop trying to avoid them.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so powerful. I'm excited that you've had that experience and been able to be with it, to kind of let it. I talk about things rising up, doing their little dance and passing away, because that's what they do. That's the impermanence piece. Um, Let me say one other practice that is helpful is doing it when it, how to say it, like doing it when it doesn't matter. So what we're doing, and what Rachel just talked about, is being able to be present with something that's unpleasant, that has a feeling tone or a scary thought attached to it, that is unpleasant. And so our normal response is to turn away. And a lot of times that works. It works for years until it doesn't. So one of the ways you can kind of sneak up on yourself about this is to do it in, like, when you're waiting in line or when you're waiting on hold on the phone. That is discomfort. We are waiting. And so it's an opportunity to do exactly what Rachel said. It's exactly the same thing. And it'll have a similar power, actually, but then it will transfer to what she's saying, where it really does matter. So you're standing in line and you notice a sense of boredom. Instead of getting out your phone and starting to check your texts or get on social media, just stand there and investigate what boredom feels like. Where do you feel it in your body? Are there thoughts that are coming and going? Especially if the person in front of you, you're in the 15 item line and they have 16 items or something. Just notice, notice, and then just stand there and be with the very minor discomfort of being inconvenienced, being stalled, not being able to go forward. And then gradually, when you come to something that's huge, like what Rachel talked about, that's exactly the same process. You notice, oh, wait, if I don't add this extra story on top of it, it's just thoughts and body sensation. It's pure experience. It's not, but we have to, but sometimes, like, you went right into it, which is amazing. But sometimes we have to sort of desensitize ourselves to it. And that's what they do with trauma, actually, is they desensitize, but it's a very slow, very gradual process. And so that's another thing I suggest with people is do it when it doesn't matter. Do it about stuff that's, that's uncomfortable, but isn't going to send you back into the PTSD horrors.
Yes, the cycle.
Right. The cycle. Yes, yes, yes. Exactly.
Yes. And that's, and acknowledging that the story is so important, and breathing and meditation definitely slow you down to be able, it slowed me down, I should say, it slowed me down to see my stories,
Yeah,
to be
because the
able to
story will
say,
come up. Right, right. That's
yeah,
right. That's exactly true. The
because
story
it's
will
like,
come up sometimes. You don't even know it's
yep,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I'm telling myself a story. Well, what if I told myself a different story? um I studied a lot of Byron Katie's work, which
Oh,
I
yes,
love,
yes. Mm-hmm.
because
Oh,
she does this, she really helped me with my stories, is because I could look at what I was saying, and she does what this called a turnaround.
right.
And so, okay, if they're not to blame, if this isn't over here is not to blame for where I am, what else could, and it's just questioning our thoughts, it's questioning our stories, it's questioning. And that helped. That was like one of the initial things that really made a huge giant shift for me in in me being able to see my meditation block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her
Because
question, is that true? Is that
yeah,
true? I love that. That's her. She's, if you guys don't know Byron Katie, probably her most famous book is Loving What Is.
yes,
And
my
it
favorite.
is powerful stuff. But yeah, that question of, well, what is really going on here?
Yeah. And yeah, I used to watch her videos all the time, because seeing her live in front of an audience and seeing all the people, we have all the same feelings, all had the same kinds of feelings. And so it helps you to not feel alone. It helped me not to feel alone when I'm going, oh, I'm going through this, oh, that is funny, and see the humor behind, oh wow, that story is, it's not helpful.
Not helpful. Not helpful.
But I know I really needed, I talk a lot about words in my work, because people can get stuck on a word, whatever the word is. Some people may feel like the word is a good word, some people may think that same word is a horrible word. But it's about how we internalize the word that matters, how it's going to, work in our lives or not work in our lives. And in that example of meditation versus breathing for me was how it helped, you know what I mean? Kind of broke that trauma bond that I had
Yeah.
with meditation.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Because with that situation, um, I have always been drawn toward meditation,
mhm,
and there have been some periods where I wasn't able to do it the way as instructed, but I'm very high in individualization, and so for me, it was better to do it wrong, but do it, than to not do it at all. But what you're talking about is like finding, knowing that you're drawn toward it, but yet also being repelled by that part of you that says, but I can't follow the rules, but I can't do this right. I'm doing this wrong. And so everybody's got that kind of there's always a little bit of pushback on almost anything that is something that's good for us. In fact, Shinzen talks about taking the wrong medicine, that we're often attracted to the wrong medicine. And he means that, within meditation, there's 1,000 ways to do it. And so sometimes you want to do one thing because it's easy and seems pleasant, when in fact you need to push. And sometimes it's the opposite. So yeah, you saw that about yourself, and you just keep coming back because there's some part of you that knows this is helpful stuff. And I think there's something here for me. It's not about it being the only tool or it being the right tool, but if you have the sense that there's something here for you, that's when I suggest just keep coming back to it. And eventually, what also helps is hearing someone else talk about it in a way you can understand. And again, that's part of why I wrote this book, is because you may hear a teacher talk about it one way, and then another teacher talk about it a different way, and then you'll hear a student talk about it, and their experience is what will actually resonate with you. But you just have to find your own way. So much of what we have to just find our own way.
Well, and I think that's such an important point that you just made, is about finding your own way, and about, being able to shift as we need to shift with that.
Yes, we get
Not
new
getting so
information.
fixated. Yeah, not
Right.
getting so fixated, because I know for me, once it opens the door and opens it up, I start seeing other opportunities. And there's nothing wrong with, because you've liked this way for this long, doesn't mean you can't work with this way now. And for me, different parts of where I am require me to do different things.
Yes.
Because with PTSD, one of my reactions, my most common one, is freeze, because you can go into like fight, flight, freeze. And so my PTSD reaction is to freeze. And so when I'm frozen, it's very hard to do anything besides, like what you were saying, taking those small things. Like for me, it's washing my hands and just being present with my hands, being able to smell the soap, being able to feel all the sensations.
Oh, that's...
And that helps me move out of the freeze. But if I don't have, so it is a small meditation practice.
Yes. Oh, that's actually a big meditation practice for somebody with
But
OCD. Oh my gosh.
so it's just, it for me, understanding that was a meditation was a
Right.
huge, that was huge for me, because before I couldn't see it as a meditate. Like I was like, I just can't meditate,
Yep.
because I
Yep.
wouldn't see those things, that me doing that was part of that. So,
Let me add, the we always hear that the trauma response is fight, flight, freeze. Well, in the last couple of years, I am sure we all knew this, but I'm just hearing it now, is fawn.
yes, yes,
Oh my
mhm.
gosh. And I have, in the last couple of years, I have noticed how much I do that because, people pleasing, I come from an alcoholic family, and the people pleasing was a survival skill. And that is fawning. And so when I notice myself doing that, it's that same kind of thing. So with you, it's the, washing your hands and smelling that. For me, I tend to be a very gut oriented person. And so it's noticing, wait a minute, is this attention that I'm giving this person? Not that they don't deserve it, but
Mhm.
is it um like out of proportion? What am I feeling in my gut? What's really going on here? And continuing to ask those questions of myself, not that I'm going to change my behavior overnight or that I'm going to um but wow, that was a real eye opener. And it's been because of some big changes in my professional life in the past couple of years. That was my big trigger. And so I've had to make um, lots of Zoom calls into meditation sessions, lots of phone conversations into meditation sessions, and email. Why am I saying that in this email? What's going on there? Again, asking and noticing, what am I feeling in my body? Where am I with this? Am I here? let's go all therapy. How old am I right now?
Yeah,
I mean, we
yes.
shouldn't do that, but
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a therapist, but that's a valid question. How old do I feel right now when I'm writing this email? And again, we have to go into our thoughts and body sensations, which is all meditation is. Infuse
Yeah.
your thoughts and body sensations with awareness and equanimity. Go into that, and investigate like a little scientist. But yeah, I love that example of washing your hands, because that is so powerful. Engaging the senses, the touch, that felt sense of the water, the smell of the soap, the scent of the soap, all of that, so sensory, and that's the present moment. That's where it's at. That's
Well, and
it right
that's
there.
what, yeah, and that's what brings me back to reality and
Yep.
breaks me free from that PTSD, and I know it's different for everybody. And you keep saying, and I should say too, that, this has been a long-term process for me. I was
Yes.
diagnosed with PTSD at 17 years old. I was admitted to a psychiatric hospital because I tried to commit suicide. So I have been doing this for a very, very long time. I've been finding my hybrid way
Yes. 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 I
of
like that.
what works for me, for many years. And one of the things that's so important with any of this kind of stuff is understanding it all happens in pieces. We don't just get to be, you know, decide in one moment and then all our old patterns dissipate, and to be gentle with ourselves. This is where that equanimity really matters, is because to be gentle with ourselves and to understand that it took us this long to understand that we had a broken pattern
Yes.
that was not helpful to us. And so allowing ourselves to be okay if it doesn't just fall away when we do meditation or do trauma therapy or do, talk therapy. There's many different ways to do this. But I will tell you, in my experience, the breathing and meditation have been a huge piece that help me move further faster
Yeah.
because it helps it move,
Mhm. It
that
does. It helps it.
impermanence.
Yeah, it's actually, now this is going to sound like I'm correcting you, and I don't mean that, so don't take it that way. But this is a common misunderstanding. In some ways, we are not moving it. It is moving itself, but what we're usually doing is creating a block that keeps it from moving naturally. And so that's part of the equanimity and the curiosity, the attention, is noticing the natural movement and then being able to just let it do that, which when you have a mental health challenge, that can be really scary. Wait, where's it going? Wait, where? I don't want it to go there. What if it goes someplace scary? And so again, doing it in small increments, doing it in ways that feel safe for us, um, in places that don't have high stakes, low stakes places,
Mm.
is a way to gradually build that muscle of, it's like a letting go muscle in some ways, which sounds like the opposite of what it would be, but it is. It's a
But yeah.
skill to be able to open up and let things flow in their natural way. So, and it doesn't mean we don't do things. It doesn't mean we don't take action, but we take informed action and we take more efficient action because we're only using the amount of energy necessary for whatever we're doing. And again, I love what Rachel said about the fact that this is an ongoing process. For me, it will be a lifelong process. Rachel and I both have been at this for a long time. And so that gentleness with yourself, I'll just keep coming back to that. Just the fact that you're even curious about it is a huge deal. That a lot of people, most people actually, don't get there at all. So,
Well, and thank you for that clarity on that, because it's true. It is not, it's it's like a river. It's just like, it's that river and flowing, and it's just allowing it to not be blocked. The
right,
water's still moving.
right.
It's meant to move.
Yes, yes.
Something may get in its way, but it will find its way around, and we just help it see
Yeah.
the way.
Right, right. We just ride in it and help it. And, to the extent that we can pick up the blocks and move them, that's great. But we're not adding more
Yes.
stones,
Yes.
we're
Yes.
not building the dam.
Oh, yes. Taking down, taking piece
Yes,
by
yes,
piece.
right. It is. It's very much like that. Very
Well,
much. I wish I know people come both in writing and meditation, and people who talk to me about running now too. They really want me to give them something that will just flip a switch, and it doesn't work that way. And that's actually kind of wonderful because the journey is pretty fabulous if you can just be with it.
yes.
There's some low points, I will say, but there's that's just what it is, and it can be pretty wonderful too. So yeah.
And I, for me, I love seeing how it shifts and changes with the more of the things that I find out and about myself, and watch myself grow, how it moves, and go, oh, I 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I wouldn't be able to be here,
No, there's no way.
you
That's right.
know?
That's
And
exactly right. I mean, I think about where I was, um, really for me, it's about 12 years ago, probably that was a pivotal point. And I think about the things I do now. I mean, really being on this video with you, that would have been so difficult for me. I would have been so terrified. And I've been looking forward to this for days because I knew we would have a wonderful conversation. I adore you. You're doing great work in the world. And so it's just such a different framework. And the only thing I can attribute it to is staying in there, gradually taking bigger and bigger risks, very tiny. Sometimes you get pushed off the cliff, but a lot of times you can just creep toward the cliff, and there's a ramp down actually.
yeah.
But through the meditation, through the being present, being um, awake to what's going on with me, being willing to take this tiny risk of noticing what's going on with my thoughts and body sensations. That's how we do this work. Is just it's like showing up. We talk about suiting up and showing up, and we just show up, show up, show up. So yeah, yeah. So thank you for doing the work.
Well, thank you. And thank you for taking the extra time to be here because this was a last minute thing. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's
it
great. It
was,
works out great.
and I really appreciate you taking the time because I think it's such an important piece to help people with who have the challenges of those blocks like I did. And if I we can help one person get beyond it just to start. And that's the
Just
thing.
to start, right? Yeah.
Washing our hands, washing the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
switching out laundry, folding laundry,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Brushing your teeth. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brushing
Drink a
teeth.
glass of water. I
Yes.
mean, it can be very simple. It does not have to be complicated.
Yes.
It's fun if you like the complication, that can be really fun. It can also be a distraction. So that's the other thing is there's this kind of, um, not always, but a regular interval of assessing, am I really doing this? Am I really in here? Am I doing the scary things? Not that you have to push, 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 but just sort of this. That's why it's good to have a teacher or a community, somebody who can help you notice where you are kind of with things and whether you're embellishing them too much as an escape or whether the embellishment is perfect for you because we're just all, again, just come back to it. We are all wired so differently. So, yeah.
And there are a lot more now Zoom communities that are for people who don't have money, for people who are in places where they can't get to places. There are a lot more Zoom communities now, that you can find that do meditation practices, that do all kinds of different practices that can help. And I would say the one warning I would always have to anybody is if someone says, I'm the only one who can help you, or I have all the answers, or I'm up here and you're down there and you have to follow me. Those are red flags, bright red
Yes.
swinging flags. so, so watching out for those is key because
Mm.
just like in any other area of life, you're always going to have people who take advantage.
Mhm.
And it's about just being able to just be aware enough to see that somebody who is doing this from an authentic place is going to understand they are not an all being. They are not,
Right.
they are not the source.
Thank
It's
you for
inward.
adding that. Yes, thank you for adding that, because that is so important. And there are people, the sad thing is there are people taking advantage of people who don't even realize they're taking advantage of people. And that's where it gets really tricky. But just listen to your gut. Whoops, that's the
Yep.
puppy. Listen to your gut, because that's if the bells start going off, run, get out
Yes.
fast.
Yes. And that's the thing, is if you can get centered, those red flags will, you'll be able to spot them in your body faster. Um it's just knowing that that's what it is. That's the key. Hmm.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And if
Thank
you
you.
stayed and if you came on YouTube to watch this, then you know you were meant to hear whatever something in here that was meant, what that was said. And I speak for myself, hoping that this really does help somebody move
Me
past
too.
any kind of blocks that they have.
Yep, me too. Thank you, Rachel. And thanks again for inviting me to come on and have this chat with you. It's been lovely,
Oh,
as
thank you
expected.
so much. Yes, I appreciate you being here and taking this extra time, because I think this is such an important topic. So thank you. Make sure to follow the links that accompany this episode. You will learn a lot more about today's guest and see what they have going on now. You will also get all the links to follow them on their journeys if this seed resonates with you. Come back next week for another Seed of Wisdom. If you loved what you saw or listened to, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.